Hey everybody, welcome back to Let's Talk. My name is John, and today here on the channel, we're going to be counting down the top 10 must-own 2010 films on 4K Blu-ray. I'm talking about the decade of the 2010s. That's 2010 to 2019. 2020 to the present will get its own video. And just like the other lists here on the channel, this is my opinion, but it's basically a countdown of what the top 10 movies of the 2010s I think you must own, and we're including the quality of the 4K Blu-ray disc, the quality of the film, and how I feel about the film personally. So we put all that in a blender, and this is the list that it's spit out. But just remember, this is my opinion and my opinion only. You guys might disagree with me, and if you do, make sure you guys let me know in the comments section below which movies I left off this list that must be included in the 2010s must-own 4K Blu-rays list. But I'm not going to waste any more of your time. We're going to dive right into this list, and we're going to start it off with number 10.
This shit is bananas, dog.
And number 10 is a Sony 4K Blu-ray, Edgar Wright's 2017 Baby Driver. Now, this movie is fantastic. Like every great Edgar Wright movie, it moves along at a very fast pace. Baby is he's a driver. He's basically a driver. He works under Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey always includes him in any time he's setting up a big heist. And the reason is he's a great driver, and it turns out Baby owes him some money. Baby's also got a hearing problem. I believe he's got tinnitus, and the only way to really help that is have music going at all times. So he's always wearing headphones, and we get to hear that music throughout the entire film, and it plays along perfectly to his driving. The driving is really a standout in this movie, but everybody's doing a great job, including Jamie Foxx, and I believe John Bernthal is in this movie. He does a great job as well. It's just a well-acted, well-directed, well-edited, fast-paced movie, and this 4K Blu-ray is fantastic. It's a Sony 4K Blu-ray. You know, it's probably not the greatest 4K Blu-ray. The reason why it's at number 10 mainly is because, you know, the film is good, but it's not one of my favorite films, but it is one of my favorite films of the 2010s, and you combine that with the 4K Blu-ray, and I do think it's one of those must-own 4K Blu-rays. That's why it made it into the top 10. And at number 9, it hurt me to put this low because this is my favorite Mission Impossible movie, and a bunch of Mission Impossible movies came out in the 2010s. It really is the resurgence of the Mission Impossible franchise after 1, 2, and 3. They took a pretty big, they took a long time for this one to come out. Brad Bird came in and directed it, and I just think it got the perfect tone of comedy and action. We added some new characters. Simon Pegg joins the official team now, and we also add Jeremy Renner. He was actually supposed to take over the franchise after Tom Cruise, but they're like, Tom Cruise still wants to do this. He's going to do it until he dies. And this 4K Blu-ray is great. Put out by Paramount. Paramount put all these out anticipating Mission Impossible 6. So we got 1 through 5 with these really nice slip covers. I really wanted Mission Impossible Fallout to have the similar design. That didn't happen. And of course, with Dead Reckoning Part 1, that had its own unique design as well. But 1 through 5 had these great slip covers on it. They're great 4K Blu-rays as well. And this one is just a lot of fun. It's my favorite in the Mission Impossible franchise, and it's definitely one you must own.
You gotta get home before sunrise, or you'll be stuck here.
And at number 8, the rare Disney Pixar 4K Blu-ray on the list. And the reason why Coco makes the list is because not only is it a beautiful 4K Blu-ray, but it's a beautiful film. It is my favorite Pixar film of all time. So it does hurt me to put it at number 8, so maybe I put a little bit too much value on the 4K Blu-rays. Disney doesn't put out the greatest 4K Blu-rays. This one is solid though. It looks really good on 4K Blu-ray. A lot of that is because of Pixar and their amazing animation, and this one is beautifully animated. That orange bridge never looks so good. The world that they go into, it's a fantasy movie, and it just looks so gorgeous and sounds so beautiful because the music in this movie, Remember Me and Un Poco Loco, are two songs I just love to hear. And you hear Remember Me 3 different times in this movie. All 3 times it's for different reasoning. It's for different emotional moments. The last time, it's gonna break you down. Just trust me on that. You're gonna get broken down. And the 4K Blu-ray, like I said, it's really good. It's just not the greatest. Disney just, they kind of half-assed it a little bit, but it's still really solid, and that's why it's at number 8. At number 7, you got Us. This is the follow-up to Jordan Peele's Get Out. This one came out in 2019. You know, Jordan Peele, people were anticipating this one. Get Out was a phenomenon. It came out in the beginning of the winter of 2017, so I remember seeing the trailer for Get Out when Split came out, which was another movie that kind of just got dumped in the beginning of the year because M. Night Shyamalan wasn't seen as a great director at the time anymore. So, you know, people like Jordan Peele, the comedian, Get Out. Well, I don't know about that. And then everyone loved Get Out, including myself, but his follow-up, Us, this is a great summer horror film. It has a couple great twists in it. Lupita Nyong'o did an amazing job in the lead role. Winston Duke deserves so much credit. That guy, I don't know why more people don't put him in movies. He is never bad. He's always a lot of fun, and he's got range. Check out 9 Days as well if you've never seen that. Just going to give that movie a shout out because that was my favorite movie of 2021. I love 9 Days. But this movie right here is fantastic. It's a really well-made, well-acted, well-directed movie. I know not a lot of people love this one as much as Get Out. I personally love it a little bit more than Get Out and think it's Jordan Peele's best movie, although the guy is 3 for 3. He's put out 3 fantastic movies in my opinion. But Us is at the top of the mountain, and this 4K Blu-ray right here is definitely one you must own. It's very well done. It had a steelbook when it first came out. It's from Universal. Universal might not put out the greatest 4K Blu-rays, but I feel like Universal never puts out a bad 4K, and this is one of their better 4K Blu-rays as well.
More of a personal statement. Q. 007.
And at number 6, I just couldn't let my fandom for this movie let it drop below this because really, Skyfall, I have this on Blu-ray and I have it on 4K Blu-ray. It's not the biggest jump to the 4K Blu-ray format, but Skyfall is probably my favorite James Bond film now, even passing GoldenEye. I love Daniel Craig's performance in this movie. I love the direction of this movie, how we're really breaking down the James Bond character, diving into his past, diving into his alcoholism, really diving into the character himself and really what makes him tick and what can really hurt the guy. It has some beautiful sequences, including that sequence with the neon light and the sniper rifle. All that stuff works so well in this movie. The end of this movie, the third act, when we go to James Bond home, is some of my favorite stuff. In James Bond history. Daniel Craig, you know, he's not my favorite James Bond of all time because the James Bond movies for him, you get a good one, you get a bad one. You get a good one, you get a bad one. And then No Time to Die was pretty good. So that was like in the middle. I wouldn't say it was a bad movie, but I also wouldn't say it's as good as Casino Royale or Skyfall. Skyfall is probably right now the best James Bond movie to ever come out. It's just so well constructed. Sam Mendes just knows how to make a movie. You know, he made this and 1917, which is another great 4K Blu-ray that you might see on a different list coming up. But this movie is incredible, and it has one of the best Daniel Craig performances that you'll see as James Bond. And this 4K Blu-ray, like I was saying, not the biggest jump in the world. This one was actually put out by MGM themselves, but it's still a must-own, especially if you're a James Bond fan. A lot of us are hoping that we finally get all of the James Bond movies on 4K Blu-rays. My wallet isn't hoping for that, but I personally, I'll sacrifice a lot to get all the James Bond movies on 4K Blu-ray. And now we're starting the top 5 with Interstellar, 2014's Interstellar, directed by Christopher Nolan. Only put one Christopher Nolan movie on the list. I was trying to do that with all the franchises and all the directors. Don't want to have any overlap. And, you know, shout out some movies that might not get shouted out as much. But this movie right here, this is one of my favorite Christopher Nolan movies. It's at number 2, only behind Oppenheimer right now, which Oppenheimer will definitely make the 2020s list. This one was put out by Warner Brothers. You know, Christopher Nolan might not be working with Warner Brothers right now. He's working with Universal, but when he was working with Warner Brothers, this was one of the greatest movies that they ever put out. And people were mixed on this when it first came out, which I couldn't believe. And I didn't even get to see this in theaters, unfortunately, back then. But when I finally got my hands on the Blu-ray, I watched that movie twice in one day. I mean, it was actually back-to-back days. I watched it one night, and then I watched it the next night just because I was emotionally struck by this movie, and I still get emotionally struck by this movie every time I watch it. The scene with Matthew McConaughey getting the video diaries from his kids and how it's just been so many years and he's seeing them grow up through these videos, even though he was only gone for hours. It really was barely any time. But you know what? All that time passed thanks to gravity, and he just gets broken down, and it'll break you down as well. This 4K Blu-ray came out with all the other Christopher Nolan 4K Blu-rays that were available at the time. You know, everything up to Dunkirk, I believe, came out at the very same time, and this was included in that. And you know what? those Christopher Nolan 4K Blu-rays, they do have a lot of room for improvement, but I think Interstellar is almost a perfect 4K Blu-ray. The amount of extras. Yes, you know what? If we got a new remaster right now, we would definitely improve on it, but still, it is a fantastic 4K Blu-ray. And as many people know about Warner Brothers, there's no Dolby Vision or no Dolby Atmos on this. Christopher Nolan himself doesn't use Dolby Atmos tracks, but it's fine. You're going to get all the bells and whistles of a great Christopher Nolan movie in here. You know, the Hans Zimmer score is one of his best, if not his best, and it just sounds amazing on 4K Blu-ray, and it looks beautiful as well. One of the most beautiful looking films that I've ever seen. Like I said, there is some room for improvement, and that's why I have it at number 5, but still, I absolutely love this movie.
They closed it down and let it rot.
And at number 4, one of my favorite working horror directors today. He's probably most known for The Haunting of Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor, Midnight Mass. You know, he put out a lot of shows on Netflix. He's putting out one every single year around spooky season. I've enjoyed every single one of them, but I still think the best thing he ever put out was The Haunting of Hill House. But if you go to his movies, he's put out a lot of great movies as well, including Oculus, and he directed this gem right here, the follow-up to The Shining, Dr. Sleep, starring Ewan McGregor. And this movie, and like I've said it about every movie here, it's a fantastic film. It was put out by Warner Bros. This 4K Steelbook I had to get because I fell in love with the movie the first time I saw it. It is just amazing. I really can't believe the sequel to The Shining, Dr. Sleep, is this good. It has no business being this good. The fact I can always go back to this movie and rewatch it and enjoy it really should tell you something about that. And this movie also features one of the most underrated horror villains of all time. As Rose the Hat, you got Rebecca Ferguson. She is a great actress and she has incredible range, but many people don't remember her in this movie, and she was so good as Rose the Hat. She was scary, and you know what? She had a reason for doing what she was doing, even though that reason is horrible, but hey, she had a reason for it. You always like a villain that actually has reasoning for what they're doing. Ewan McGregor is a great lead as Danny Torrance, you know, following up The Shining. And he's good in this movie. Ewan McGregor is never bad, but it's Mike Flanagan's direction that adds the emotional tension to this movie that a movie like this really desperately needed. And that's what Mike Flanagan balances best, the drama and the horror. You know, his stuff might not be the goriest movies ever, but they always have an emotional element to them. And I think that's why Mike Flanagan is the best working horror director today. I know a lot of people will say Robert Eggers. I love Robert Eggers, or even Ari Aster. I love Ari Aster as well. But Mike Flanagan has that perfect balance of drama and horror, and he captured that perfectly in the sequel to The Shining, Dr. Sleep. So make sure you guys grab this 4K Blu-ray if you haven't seen it. And at number 3, Logan. And this 4K Blu-ray is stacked. Not only do you get Logan on 4K Blu-ray, but you also get Logan Noir. So you get the black and white version of this. And this movie is basically a Western. It was really supposed to be the finale of the Logan Wolverine character played by Hugh Jackman. Obviously, he's coming back for Deadpool and Wolverine, and I'm perfectly fine for that. It will not hurt this movie. This movie is a masterpiece. I remember being in a Regal theater and just breaking down and crying at the end of this movie. Now, I won't spoil the end. I think most people realize because a lot of people saw Logan, and this is probably Hugh Jackman's best performance as the character of Wolverine. You know, it's old man Logan, you know, the guy at the end of his rope. The X-Men have pretty much been eliminated. It's just him and Patrick Stewart, and then you know what? A little girl shows up, and a little girl who has very similar powers to Mr. Logan in this movie, and they gotta go on a road trip. It's essentially a road trip movie, but we finally get to see Wolverine in rated R, so we're getting to see the violence. I mean, when he puts his claws through somebody's head in Vegas, my jaw hit the floor. I gathered it back up and got right back into the movie, and the third act of this movie just lives up to everything that they were building to. And then, of course, again, that emotional moment at the very end of it, the sacrifice. I just love Logan. And even in black and white, it looks absolutely gorgeous. Certain movies, they will just look good in color and in black and white. And Logan, you can watch it either way on this beautiful 4K Blu-ray.
You have to trust me.
Thomas, your bride is frozen.
And at number 2, this is the best 4K Blu-ray on the list, and this just came out this year. I gave this a 10 out of 10, and that is Crimson Peak, directed by Guillermo del Toro. Now, the reason why it's at number 2 and not number 1 is because the film itself, I really enjoyed this movie. I just liked it a little bit less this time than I used to. I still think it's a very well-made, very well-directed movie. It's a great gothic horror film with a great romance in there. Tom Hiddleston is awesome in this movie, so is Jessica Chastain. It's a very well-made movie, and the thing about it is this 4K Blu-ray. The visuals, the audio. It's an upgrade from Arrow Video's previously released Blu-ray, and this 4K Blu-ray just hits a grand slam. It looks amazing. The movie itself was already beautifully shot because Guillermo del Toro just has incredible production design, and this movie is just no different. It looks incredible no matter which way you watch it, but watching it in 4K Blu-ray is absolutely the way to go. This Arrow Video 4K Blu-ray is stunning. It's definitely going to end up in the top 5 of the year. Right now, it's at number 1 of 2024. But as far as this list goes, you know, you got to take the movie as a factor as well and how I feel about it. So right now, it is only at number 2.
John Wick.
And at number 1, how isn't it John Wick? John Wick is reference quality when it comes to audio. Now, the visuals themselves, slightly dated because this is an older 4K Blu-ray. I'm sure if we released this in 2024 with all the 2024 bells and whistles, comparing it to like John Wick 4, you know, it probably will be even better. But still, this is a fantastic 4K Blu-ray. John Wick Chapter 2 is in here as well. That's when I bought this. I bought this when it came out. I had to have this on 4K Blu-ray. The steelbook, I was like, it was talking to me. I had to grab it. John Wick Chapter 3, I think, is the worst in the franchise, and that movie's still like an 8.5 out of 10. They have not missed with these John Wick movies. It really revitalized Keanu Reeves' career. The first one was a huge surprise to everyone. You know, at the time, people might forget Keanu Reeves had a lot more misses than hits, and a lot of people just thought this was going to be another generic action movie. Little did we know that this movie would start not only a great franchise, but rejuvenate Keanu Reeves' career, really get him to the next level, and people are like, that's the guy. Keanu Reeves always willing to do his own stunts, a movie made by stuntmen. It is an amazing movie, and it's definitely still the best in the franchise. I still have to put it over John Wick Chapter 4 because the emotional moments in this movie, especially the stuff with the dog, really helps to push it over the top. And I just love the movie cliche of somebody who a lot of people fuck with the guy and they don't realize what that guy is. And Baba Yaga is somebody you do not fuck with, and they fucked with him, and he came back with a vengeance. And this movie, the club scene alone in 4K Blu-ray, is worth it, and that's why I have to put John Wick Chapter 1 at number 1 on this list of the top 10 movies from the 2010s you have to own on 4K Blu-ray. And before we get out of here today, I do have 2 honorable mentions, some tough cuts, and the only reason that I cut this one, The Social Network, is because it only, right now, is still only available in the Columbia Classics Volume 2 set, which is very disappointing. We are getting some movies trickling out, like Taxi Driver, which is in the same set, is coming to 4K Blu-ray pretty soon. Columbia Classics Volume 1, we're going to have A League of Their Own coming to 4K Blu-ray soon, so hopefully The Social Network gets a solo release as well, because this truly is one of the best movies of the 2010s. Famously lost Best Picture to The King's Speech, really should have won. And, you know, a lot of David Fincher movies aren't on 4K Blu-ray. Zodiac's supposedly coming pretty soon. 7 we're supposedly getting in 2025. And this one's locked behind the Columbia Classics wall. I don't know why. David Fincher shoots some of the best-looking movies of all time, and he really knows how to shoot with digital cameras. So hopefully this one gets a release pretty soon, because that's the only reason it was left off the list, because not everybody can pick this one up. And then the last one being Halloween 2018, the one that revitalized the franchise, started a brand new trilogy. I love Halloween 2018. I even love Halloween Kills. Halloween Ends, I do not like it. I actually hated it at the time. And to be fair, I haven't seen it since I saw it in theaters. So maybe this will be the year I revisit it and, you know, try and look at it with fresh eyes and experience the movie for what it is. I was let down at the time because I was expecting something different, but this time, I'll let the movie roll over me, watch it for what it is, and maybe I won't hate Corey as much this time, because I felt like we were promised the movie, and we were promised the end to a great trilogy, and that's just not what we got. Halloween 2018 was a fantastic start to that trilogy, and that's why it's an honorable mention. But of course, I want to hear from you guys. What do you guys think of the top 10 movies of the 2010s that we have to own on 4K Blu-ray, as long as they have a 4K Blu-ray release? Let me know those lists in the comments section below, and while you're down there, make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel, share this video, turn notifications on. We also have channel memberships. We have a friends of the channel tier. We have a producers tier where you're going to find Jason Martin and John Doe Juggalo. We have a directors tier where you're going to find Mr. Smelly Potato and Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews. John Doe Juggalo and Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews both have great YouTube channels. Make sure you guys subscribe to them as well. I promise you, you will not regret it. But if you got no money to throw away, don't you worry about it all. All we hope is that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure you guys get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you around.